What's up, A to Z Sports here live on a Wednesday. Going to be a quick show, busy show, lots of stuff to get to in a short amount of time because the Titans are having press conference and media availability this morning starting at 10 a.m., which means Easton needs to leave his house in less than an hour.
Gotta go
get down there for the Chad Brinker, no video, no audio recording media availability. And then an hour later at 11 a.m. Central Time, we have the Mike Borgonzi press conference, the new Titans GM. So Sam and Easton are going to be there. Buck will also be there, dabbling and juggling both radio and the press conferences as well. So we're going to have a lot of interesting conversation, but Chad Brinker has already spoken today. He was on Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone this morning and had some interesting comments. We're going to play a couple of them. There's a lot to get to here. We'll also talk about Easton's conversation with Brian Callahan. I see Bustin' Diamond already says, release the full interview, Easton. We will do that on Friday. We'll talk about that here in a second, a little bit more, because we had to dance around this Borgonzi press conference, but a lot to get to in a short amount of time. Easton, tell the people what they got to do here so we can officially get this thing off and rolling.
Good morning, Austin. Good morning, people. Great to see all of your lovely faces this morning in the chat. Help us out. Hit that like button on Facebook, on YouTube. Join the chat, but not before you hit that like button for us. We need as many likes on the show today as possible. Very abbreviated version of the show today, so you don't have as long to get those likes in. Get them in right now. And then join Rooney, Daniel, Louie, NM Titan, Laws, John, Katie, and others in the chat. Love to see all you guys this morning. Want to hear your thoughts as we prepare for some media availability from the Titans front office today.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He's Easton Freeze, one of our Titans reporters for A to Z Sports.com. We're Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. You can leave a 5-star Google review for A to Z Sports. That would be fantastic. Got to thank our sponsors. They make it happen for us, and they help out all of you. Like Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org for whenever that injury pops up. Farm Bureau Health Plans, get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. You can do that by using our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. T-Dot, join T-Dot's campaign to keep our state beautiful. Nobody trashes Tennessee.com. And our new friends, Bart Durham Injury Law. Crash can change your life forever, but help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. If we had more time, I would throw serious shade at Luman for his slander on the YouTube chat, calling me a bleep head, but we don't have that time, so let's go ahead and move forward.
I agree with you on that one, Luman.
We have so much to get to. Chad Brinker is meeting with the media here, the president of football operations. You guys will be at that media availability at 10 a.m. Central Time. There's no video, no audio recording. This is like the old school, like before technology was invented. You guys are having a conversation with Chad Brinker.
Mm-hmm. And then we can actually video and audio record. You just can't post it anywhere. Okay. They'll let you. You just can't put it out there. If you want to do your own transcription, you can go for it. They're going to transcribe it for us. Maybe we should, so there's no state-run transcription scrubbing words out.
Yes, I do think there needs to be audio recorded of said conversation. But Easton, then there's the Mike Borgonzi press conference at 11 a.m. I think it's a good opportunity right now before we dive into the big question that Chad Brinker did answer this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. What was the actual, like, clear up the PR situation from what this morning is actually going to be instead of what we all thought it was going to be yesterday when they sent out the emails and the availability notice.
Yeah, what today is going to be is actually completely reasonable and understandable and not hard to explain. The Titans found a way to make it hard to explain, and the PR for this team blows right now. I mean, it stinks. And that's unfortunate because they make things so much harder on themselves than they need to. They are constantly committing unforced errors like they did here, where if they had just explained what those of us that did their due diligence last night figured out eventually, and the rest of us will find out today, I'd imagine, when we speak to PR and to Chad, and the first questions from some who still don't get it are going to be, why are we doing it this way? They're going to be able to explain it in 60 seconds. It's not hard. The problem is they could have done that in the email they sent to all of those of us in the media on the beat yesterday, or those of us that were confused about it on the radio or in writing or on Twitter. They have our phone numbers. We talk to them. Give us a call. Explain it for 10 seconds. It's not hard. They chose not to do that. They chose to send us a very basic email that said, Chad Brinker, 10 a.m., no phones, no audio recording, no video publishing, transcription to come. Mike Borgonzi, 11 a.m., introductory press conference, end of email. And then just do with that information what you will.
Like, what?
Right. That's the whole thing. So stupid. Here's what's actually happening. So now that I've already properly flamed this team for their god-awful PR, here's what's actually happening. And it's really not that hard to explain. The Titans today, we're always going to have a Mike Borgonzi introductory press conference, a very normal standard NFL introductory press conference where the guy that, or the guys that hired the GM are there to also speak in accordance with the GM who is there to speak. And they will all speak and we will hear from them on camera, quotable, tweetable, like normal thing. Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker. And that's the part that was clarified last night and what made me click like, oh, okay, now I get it. Brinker's going to speak at both 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. like normal. The reason the 10 a.m. thing exists at all is because the Titans at least have enough sense to have sat down yesterday and realized, we have not spoken to these people since Brian Callahan spoke on Monday morning after the season ended, before we fired Rand Carthon, before we made Chad Brinker in charge of the technical football operations and everything, before we went and hired Mike Borgonzi. We've not heard from them about, or they have not heard from us about any of those things. And so if we just go up there cold on the introductory press conference for Mike Borgonzi, the first 15 minutes are liable to be all of us in the media asking just Chad Brinker about the previous stuff, nonsense that the last 2 weeks have been, asking about the mess. And it takes away from Mike. It takes away from his big day. It makes it awkward because we don't have any questions for him yet. And we're grilling this team and making them look bad on the top. So the original sin here is them not having a press conference of some kind with Chad Brinker up until this point. They are trying to make up for that with this 10 a.m. thing where Chad is going to come to us. It is super informal. It is separate. The instructions to us were literally meet in the media room. PR is going to get you and bring you to Chad. I think we're just going to huddle up around Chad, some random place in the facility, and have a chat with him so that he can, on the record to all of us, which for some reason he did with specific individuals, Tennessean and Paul Kaharski and Tron Davenport 2 weeks ago. That was not enough. The rest of us want to hear as well. We have questions too. He's going to address those things to let's just clear the air on the mess the last 2 weeks. That way, in an hour, we can do the normal thing and we can make it about Mike and about the future of this team, which makes sense. Yes, but I didn't explain any of that.
Yes, very fair. So that's what's going to happen. The email could have been done better, but so actually, as Top Tier says, it's a smart move. Yes, it is the correct thing to do. It was not communicated in the right way.
But also, they made themselves look bad and dumb.
Which again, like I said yesterday, when Zach and I were talking about the change of Bert Nihil's comments versus what Albert Breer was reporting, unforced errors, but we did get some clarity on the Chad Brinker role this morning from Ramon Killa and Willa. Curtis asked, did you guys get the chance to watch the interview this morning? Yes, we did. And so first, we're going to start on Chad Brinker being asked about the firing of Rand Carthon. Here was Chad Brinker on Rand Carthon out in that situation, asked by Kayla Anderson.
In terms of maybe what didn't work with Rand Carthon here and why you guys decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. First and foremost, I have the utmost respect for Rand Carthon. He means a lot to me professionally as well as personally. He's a friend. And, this all happened so fast, and I think people forget there's a human element to all this. And I'm still trying to allow my thinking to catch up to my feelings, because the decision was made, and then immediately it was, Amy and I talked. She's like, we're going to go find a general manager, and I had to flip into we got to find a general manager mode. And Rand is. It's disappointing that we got to this spot, and I miss him. And like I said, he's a good friend. He's a bright football mind. we know what we signed up for in this league. This is a tough and unforgiving business. It's a hard business. I mean, you know that, Ramon, you played in this league and you understand what that's like. And I've heard people say it's a good business, but it's a difficult life. And I really understand what that means, and especially in the position that I'm in now. And they say it's lonely at the top. I'm kind of feeling that. I understand what that means a little bit now. But again, Rand, we won 3 games this year and 9 in the last 34. And ultimately, it just wasn't good enough. None of us was good enough, me included. We got to get better in all phases. And unfortunately, it ended up the way it ended up. And like I said, Rand and I've talked. I mean, he knows we're friends and we have great respect for one another. And I love his family. They're just great people. And it's just disappointing we got to this point.
So there's Rand Carthon, disappointed. So Easton, my take is that Amy Adams Strunk is the one who ultimately made the decision to move on from Rand Carthon. It was her trigger to pull. I do think, obviously, Chad Brinker was probably aligned with the job that was being done or not being done. But Amy Adams Strunk, the ultimate decision maker from there. So what do you think quickly here, so we can keep on moving forward, about that comment of Brinker on the firing of Rand Carthon?
Yeah, I mean, my take is he didn't answer the question, and good on Kayla for asking it. Yeah. It's going to need to be re-asked today and pushed, and he may still not give an answer, but that's a response that deserves a follow-up, because the question was about what didn't work with Rand that led to him being let go. Yeah. And Brinker, either intentionally or unintentionally, answered about how sad he was to see him go and how it's lonely at the top and all these things that aren't the answer that we're looking for. So that's fine. He may just not answer that question, but it needs to be asked a couple more times. Obviously, you're right. Amy Adams Strunk was the one that pulled that trigger. I'd imagine Chad. I've seen a lot of people talk about how Chad was this was Chad the snake, the backstabbing of the guy that hired it wasn't like that. Whether you want to believe it was like that or not. Not to say that Chad was necessarily super anti, moving on from Rand, pounding the table to keep Rand. I don't know about all that, but he was not the one orchestrating this at all. That did not happen.
I mean, he kind of, Cap says his answer was 3 wins and 9 and 25. That's when, if you think it's not a very deep answer, it's very surface level, but that was a part of the answer of, like, whenever you only have 3 wins in a season and you go 9 wins and out of 34 games, things are not great. Nobody did a good enough job, which I think a natural follow-up and maybe a conversation that you guys are going to have today with Brinker is, okay, well then why are you still here? 3 wins, you're technically above Rand Carthon. So what makes you still be here? I guess what's the difference on the job that Rand didn't do versus the job that you did that allows you to have the forward thinking and the forward plan and the control over all this? Because Chad Brinker was asked right after this a very important, massive question surrounding he and the hiring of GM Mike Borgonzi. We'll get to that video here in a second, because it's been a big hubbub over there at St. Thomas Sports Park about who has roster control. Well, we'll finally get the answer here in a second. But first, Farm Bureau Health Plans. They are the answer for you if you're looking for a brand new health coverage plan. If you're looking for just something that's cheaper, something that's just not going to slash into your monthly budget as deep as your current plan, Farm Bureau Health Plans can do that. But you're not going to have to give up or sacrifice great coverage, because Farm Bureau Health Plans has the best coverage for the best rate for your situation, whatever it may be, whether it's health, dental, vision. If you want health and dental but not vision, great. If you don't need dental, which you need, everybody needs dental.
Clean your teeth, people.
Dental is very, your teeth, you only get one set, guys. I don't care how white everybody's teeth look and how straight they are. Those are fake. You get one real set of teeth. Make sure you take care of them. Anyway, Farm Bureau Health Plans is how you do that. Check them out online and start by getting a quote today using our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
We're also brought to you by BetMGM. Sign up using our bonus code today, ATOZ Sports, to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win on your first bet. We've got championship weekend in the NFL coming up here, so some exciting games to bet on in the football season left. There's nothing better than winning at BetMGM. Enjoy the best parlay selection options, boosted odds specials, daily promotions, so much more. Download that BetMGM app today. Sign up using our code ATOZ Sports and experience this postseason like never before.
Orlando, or no, it was Curtis saying we get 2 sets of teeth, Austin. Like, yeah, but you're always going to lose one set, right? But we knew
crazy on those baby teeth, but then
right, yeah, you can eat all the candy you want for the baby teeth, and then they'll rot out anyway. All right, so a couple things before we get to the video here. Vanessa says Rand made the relationship, Brinker does nothing. I think that is misguided. Chad Brinker does a lot of things.
Yeah, real misstep if they just promoted the guy to do most of the things because
I don't think that's how that works at all. But I think Curtis says Austin was born with his adult teeth confirmed. How about this? How about this for a Austin fun fact? I have a baby tooth still remaining in my mouth. How about that? How about that for a shocker on a Wednesday? How about that? You didn't know you were going to get this going into this conversation.
I don't know. What tooth?
They just you'll never find out.
Front tooth, back tooth.
Next
time you smile is going to be obvious. You got one freakishly small tooth.
How? Because they didn't have a permanent one that came and pushed it out there. And it's still hanging on. It's still healthy. It's still good. It's just hanging in there because nothing came. It's a genetic thing, I guess. All right, so now let's get to what what Chad Brinker was asked about the roster control. Now that I've thrown everybody off,
it completely threw me for a loop here.
A big question: who has roster control? Who has roster control? Here is Chad Brinker answering that question.
Chad, when it comes to the title of general manager, I know, and I want you to clarify this, you have final say over the roster, correct?
Yes,
when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
When it comes to maybe a decision that you and Mike Borgonzi come to, whether it's free agency or the draft, how do you guys go about maybe settling difference of opinions in terms of, since you do technically have the final say?
Yeah, a lot of people make a big deal about this.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Really?
I mean, I think it's going to be interesting when you all get a chance to talk to Mike later today. Let him talk about that, why this job was attractive to him. I mean, Andy Reid's got final say in Kansas City, and every organization, it's different. I mean, sometimes a head coach has it, a general manager has it, an owner, Jerry Jones has it, now a president has it. So it's I think it's way overblown. And Mike will probably touch on that a little bit because we've talked about it. I think people think that, Mike's going to go up to the draft board and he's getting ready to pull a name tag off, and I'm going to run up there and slap his hand and say, no, we're taking this guy instead. That's not how this works. I mean, we're going to be working together through all this. Every decision that's made is going to be a we decision. Obviously head coach is going to be involved. I mean, we're going to be working on this together. I think the thing that you don't want happening, and especially what Amy doesn't want happening, is which could happen in organizations where a head coach runs up the back stairwell and the GM runs up the other side of the stairwell, and then she wanted a football executive that can handle that and manage those relationships, and we work together within the room. And one example, I talked to one of my mentors in this league, John Schneider. He went out to Seattle. He didn't have final say. Pete Carroll had it. And I asked him, how often did this actually come up? And he couldn't really remember a time where, Pete just, threw the hammer down on him. He said, sometimes there's going to be times you're going to disagree. You want that. You want healthy debate in the room and all that. But at the end of the day, if you just simply cannot come to an agreement on whatever that particular player, well, let's go find another player that we both agree on. Chad Brinker.
So there's Chad Brinker there with Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5. So I think we need to put something to bed. And it is the fact that it's this type of mentality, and I'm not calling out chill mode personally, but it's people that view some more collaboration, except when it's time to get fired. Are we really doing this again? Guys, every company, every business collaborates.
We are anti-collaboration now because last time it did not work.
Family that you grew up in was a collaboration. What you do with your job is a collaboration. When you're a freaking team, when you're a team, you collaborate. What in the hell do you think a left tackle blocking for the quarterback is? Collaboration. That's what it all is. Everybody has a role, and you're working together to get the job done and the goal accomplished. Everything is that way. That's how it all works. That's how our company works. We collaborate on this. Every morning we have a show, right? Guess what happens at 7:20 a.m. Central Time?
Easton wakes up.
Easton, Sam, and on Mondays, Zach all get on a phone call and we collaborate on what the headline is, the main topic, the first question. Do we need media? Do we need graphics made? Who's doing what? And we go, ready, break. And then we do a show. It's called collaboration. So everything is collaborative. It's not that hard. So they're going to work together. They're going to make joint decisions. They're not always going to agree. Easton, you've seen how many times have Zach and I gotten into a bickering match about what the headline should be or what the question is going to be. And guess what? We find the answer and we move forward, or we just pivot.
This week or like ever? Because those two different answers, right?
Like
this week, a couple.
Yes. Right? Guys, it's not that deep. Like, this is what the world does. We collaborate. We work together. We have conversations. That's how the whole thing spins. So
the problem before wasn't that they were collaborating. It's that they chose collaboration as their stupid, annoying corporate buzzword and said it 19 million times. It wasn't the actual collaborating going on that was the problem. It was the corporate buzzword that they shoved down our throats.
Everybody has corporate buzzwords too. We have two of them, Easton. Communication, reliability. Those are our two buzzwords for our company, right? But guess what comes up in conversation? Hey, did you guys communicate well? like it just happens. Like, that's how conversations work. Collaboration is a word. Hey, we're gonna jump onto something. We're gonna collaborate on how to find this right graphic, whatever the hell it is, right? That's just a word that is popular in the English language when it comes to working with other people, right? So I hope we can all get off of this collaboration toxicity, because it's driving me insane, because it's not going to go away. So I hope we can start to hear that word differently and ignore and not be triggered by that one word, collaboration. That is my hope here.
Yes. Now, allow me to steer us back onto the main reaction to that clip. Now, that's totally fine. We needed to take that exit real quick. But let's get back on the highway here. And I would like to address the topic of the video we just listened to, which was about final say being overblown, which is something I sure am glad somebody is saying it. Oh, wait, I've been writing about it extensively for over a week now. So I'm already mildly annoyed that that's going to be the topic today. You're going to hear a lot from Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker, as they should, not annoyed with them at all, about how the whole final say thing. Hey, guys in the media, fans, I promise you read too much into this. You make this a bigger deal than it actually is in real life. And it's good that they're saying that. It's annoying that we're finally going to get it today, because I wrote about it last week in an article about why this GM job is a lot more attractive than people realize it is. I posted that on Twitter this morning as a re-up, like, hey, I've been saying this for over a week. We posted an exclusive article that we're about to listen to the video of with Brian Callahan yesterday, where he addressed the fact, said almost verbatim what Chad Brinker just said about how nobody is slapping somebody's hand down when they try to go to draft a player. That's not the way that any NFL team works, any of them. So just annoyed that I've been saying it and we're finally going to get it today. I'm glad we're finally going to get it today. I hope that we're finally going to get it today. But it is true. The whole final say thing, the only reason those of us in the media and fans care so daggum much about final say is because when it comes time to give somebody praise for something, or more importantly, to attach somebody's name to a hashtag fire blank hashtag on the internet, because we're sick and tired of this guy and somebody's head needs to roll, we want to know who was responsible for things. And I understand that. I do. The answer is that the GM is responsible for GM things. And because the president of football operations around here also has input on that, he's also going to be somewhat responsible for those things. And because that coach has input on who they draft, he's also going to be responsible for some of those things. So it's just not as binary and black and white as you want to make it out to be. It was all this person did all the drafting. It's not the way it works, man. It's not. And if you want to keep thinking that's the way it works, you can keep living in La La Land. It's just not reality.
So let's do this now, because again, we have a quick show today because Easton has to get on the interstate and drive right through all the litter that T-Dot's trying to pick up. And we have to make sure that Easton gets to this Chad Brinker conversation at 10 o'clock. So before the Borgonzi presser at 11. So let's ask this question right now. What's one question you would ask Chad Brinker? And I think this is going to be interesting because now we know the actual answer to the, when we had our collaborative conversation last night, Easton, that we were going to ask this question today. We knew we would probably have to adjust based on what Brinker said on Ramon, Kalen, Will. So we know the answer to he has roster control, right? So what's one question you would ask Chad Brinker? I'm going to start with mine because we're going to let some of you guys come in here with your questions on the chat. Make sure you hit that like button too. I would ask Chad Brinker, since you have full roster control, if this doesn't work and Mike Borgonzi does not work out, does that also mean that you should be going down with Mike Borgonzi? Because you have roster control. You made the hire that we have reported. So basically, Chad, do you agree or believe that you should be tied to Mike Borgonzi with either success or failure? I think that's the right way to do that. Are you tied at the hip with Mike Borgonzi, and see where Chad Brinker goes with that? Because I think that is what I want to know. And what does Chad Brinker feel like? What's the reality of if they are bad again in a couple of years? Both need to go, in my opinion. And I think it's something that I'm going to continue to yell on this show, where whatever opportunity I get, that I think it is our job as media and the audience, the fan base, to hold them accountable, to make sure that the Brinker and Borgonzi decisions are tied at the hip, that you can't fire one without the other. Because I think that's how it needs to work moving forward.
Yeah. So my questions, and this is for Chad. So I'm taking this to mean, what am I asking Chad at 10 o'clock, not at 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Although this just hit me. I've not heard any rule about just re-asking a 10 o'clock question at 11 o'clock. It's probably frowned upon, but technically I think if we wanted something on the record, we could just re-ask it. We'll see if that happens. Yeah. My three, probably a bad idea. I won't do it, but I wouldn't put it past some other people in this media pool.
It depends.
Kind of three follow-ups to the question we heard Kayla ask, that I said, this demands follow-ups, and he may or may not answer, but we have to try to get at it. And here are the three ways that I would ask it, right? I would re-ask, so what changed with Rand? What changed from the beginning from August 2024 to the end of 2024 that caused the team to decide he needed to go? Another follow-up, if it's just the record being the reason why he had to go, somebody's head had to roll for the 3-win season. How come he and Brian got to keep their jobs, in his case, be elevated?
Yeah. And
then thirdly, if every decision is a we decision, which they're talking about the whole the final roster control thing, it's where it's us. It's not about who has the iron fist to wield. It's about us coming together collaboratively. If it's all a we decision, was that not the case last year? And if so, what changed? And if not, why? Those are my questions, because what I'm trying, the end goal for, I'm not just asking to be to be a prick and poke and try to get, an uncomfortable answer. The end goal here is trying to figure out, here's what I suspect this team has done with Rand Carthon, because if people listened to me, they know that I was not the biggest fan of letting Rand Carthon go on the merits of the work that he had done. The behind the scenes thing, maybe that's a separate thing. I was not there. I do not know for sure. Right.
Mm-hmm.
What I suspect this team has done in letting Rand Carthon go, and I think the first person I heard say this, to give proper credit, was Nick Suss on a football show on the 440 network. That was the first time he spoke about it last Thursday after it happened. He said, this team seems to be making reactive decisions at the top, Miss Amy, thinking somebody must pay for a 3-win season. And the point of the firing is somebody paying, not how can we fix this? And their philosophy needs to be adjusted to be focused not on repercussions for what has happened, over how do we fix this going forward? Does that make sense? So it's kind of the fan thing where they, we're calling for somebody's head, but then if you ask what their solution is to replace that person, don't have one. That's what it seems Amy is doing.
So Chaz comes in because my question, which I understand there's a lot of questions that could be asked. The one that I would pick that's not going to be what I think others would pick is, does Chad Brinker believe, and want to hear his thoughts on, he is tied to the hip with Mike Borgonzi with success or failure? Chaz says, why are you already thinking negative rhetoric to hires that literally just happened? Let things play out and then ask those questions. But I'm trying to find the solution too. Like, I'm trying to do what Easton's doing, is that the solution is that if it works, then they're both successful and they're both getting credit for why it worked. But if it fails and if it doesn't work, then let's not have this Survivor or whatever Deal or No Deal Island game that Amy wants to play next and wipe both of them out so you can then start fresh again. Because so part of my question is finding the solution for not being reactionary and being able to not just sacrifice somebody for a bad season. Want to get to some comments here. Oh, I lost the super chat. Where did the super chat go? There it is. I found it. It didn't get started for some reason. Noah comes in with a super chat, says, what is the deadline to have a competitive team again? Asking this to Brinker. Being 3-14 obviously means there are too many holes to fill in one offseason. I think it's a great question from
Define
Noah.
competitive.
Yeah, and that's another great follow-up. And the deadline to have a competitive team again, I think I would love to hear how Brinker answers that. I'm not going to pretend to try to predict his answer on that. So I'm going to go through some other questions from you guys here, because then we're going to talk about Mike Borgonzi before we get to the next topic and let Easton get to this press conference conversation. And let's see, Dalton, why did you not take the GM job yourself? I think that is a really fair question for Chad Brinker.
The answer is because it wasn't an option for him, but he was not offered this GM job.
Yeah, but like, again, I want to hear his answer.
I know. I'm just saying.
And John says, question is, what is Brinker going to bring that's missing and the Titans have been missing?
Sure.
Yeah. Bork, what was it like usurping the guy who hired you? It's a great question. Let's see. Everybody wants to know, what are you doing with that first overall pick, right? Brad, do you have full responsibility if this doesn't work? That's kind of along the lines of what I wanted to mention. So I think, what's your philosophy regarding building an NFL roster? That's another good one too. And I think there are so many different things to ask Chad Brinker. It's going to be hard to get this accomplished in one somewhat semi half on the record type conversation you guys are going to have. But let's do this. Now let's flip gears. What's one question you would ask new Titans GM Mike Borgonzi? And we'll have this conversation in a second. What's one question you would ask new Titans GM Mike Borgonzi? Before we get to that, Easton, you can tell everybody about our new friends at the Bart Durham Injury Law.
Absolutely, I can. Bart Durham, our new friends here in Nashville, on Capitol View in Nashville. They have been serving this community since 1975. Quick math on that means they've been doing this for half a century, and they don't just serve the Tennessee community. They can help anybody that has had an auto accident in Tennessee or Kentucky. Bart Durham, now led by Blair Durham, who is a Marine veteran. They are going to help you with your big truck wreck, your small vehicle wreck, any automobile accident that you have is important to them and is their fight for justice. They're just one phone call away. You can reach them anytime, 24/7, to get your legal questions answered at 615-242-9000. They think you deserve to be paid. So meet with their attorneys who are available to meet with you whenever and wherever is most convenient, including just virtually on your phone. Check them out, Bart Durham Injury Law.
All right. Also, T-Dot, Easton's going to be flying down I-65 to get to St. Thomas Sports Park. And T-Dot's got all this litter that we're trying to pick up and clean up on our roadways. They spend millions of dollars every year trying to help us out and keep our state beautiful. We can all pitch in with that effort by going to nobodytrashtennessee.com. That's nobodytrashtennessee.com for your role in keeping our state beautiful.
If there are any cops in our comments that want to give me like a police escort this morning, hit me up.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You're gonna need that help because we've got we got to hustle. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I
need to leave like 9ish. So let's hustle.
Be quick. Don't hurry, as the great John Wooden said. So I will send you to the chat, Easton. What are you seeing from people for questions for the new GM Mike Borgonzi?
Right off the top, Brad says, are you for or against taking naps? I reckon this will be brought up in some form or fashion today.
What is your typical plane ride tendency?
You gotta ask for clues. Like, are you do you have a neck pillow that you take with you on planes? Are you a noise canceling headphones kind of guy on plane? Or do you own a sleep mask?
Look, again, I've said this a couple times. I can't help it. When the plane engine starts building up, I fall asleep. It is not my decision.
There are, I think, a lot of people that would love to have that ability that you have.
Yeah.
Let's see. Straight up, Rooney says, who's the quarterback? Which he doesn't have an answer for yet, but we're going to ask him all about what he thinks about the options and what, they're looking for and things like that. Some things that, just shameless plug, we got some great answers from the actual coach that we'll have here in a little bit. Let's see. Who is making the pick is what Darius wants to know. Will the refs come to Tennessee as well? What's his plan for culture?
Funny. That was my favorite.
That's a good bit. I like that. Are you aware of the turnover around here? Let's see. Mike, how would you build a team from the ground up? Why would you leave a well-run franchise and join a dumpster fire? Do you have a death wish coming here? A lot of positivity here in the comments. But I mean, all joking aside, these are some questions we're going to ask and give an opportunity to explain why he felt this job was attractive enough to take, because he was and is not any longer, but up until 10 seconds ago is a very highly considered GM candidate around the league. Like Chad said, people have been expecting him to get a GM job for multiple years now, and he finally lands one. So why this one? That'll be an interesting answer from him, I'd imagine.
Easton, what's your you'll literally be at the press conference. So if you have the opportunity to get to it, because those things are a battleground in itself, what is your one answer that you would get to ask Mike Borgonzi here in a couple hours?
One question that I like an answer to.
Yeah,
yes.
my bad. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Rushing. Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, we got to be.
I'm doing that whole hurry thing instead of being.
I was about to say, you just said it. The thing that this is maybe a little bit more niche, but this is what I'm most interested in as I turn my eyes towards draft season and try to, we start to prognosticate what this team wants to do, what their philosophy is going to be. I'm going to ask, and I haven't fully figured out how I'm going to ask yet, but I'm going to ask a question that tries to get at what his philosophy is in terms of maximizing picks. We've heard Chad Brinker almost every time he's spoken on the record talk about how ideally we need 7 or 8 picks every year, and that's something the Titans don't necessarily have. And so I think some lines of questioning about the potential to focus in on picks volume wise and maybe valuing pick volume a little bit more than premium picks. And when you have the first or close to first pick in every round, you have the chance to turn your premium picks into some more volume if you would like to. And so I think that hearing their thoughts on that and shooting for volume instead of having to nail premium picks is an interesting line of questioning.
Yeah, I agree. And Curtis's chat said this morning, he'd ideally, like in a perfect world, you'd like 30 picks the next 3 years on unknown Keel and Will, which they don't. That's a lot of picks. And so Chill Mode asked the question, Easton, is your car on and warming so you can go? That is, I mean, if it's not,
it's not.
You might need to text your wife and say, hey, can you, hey, honey,
let me tell my wife who's in bed with our child to get up and go do that.
8-degree weather to start my car. That's hilarious.
That'd go over well.
You can ask for a remote start.
Which, what a double standard, because she asks me to do that all the time. But if I did it, wouldn't go over well.
Well, yeah, but that's because she's with your baby.
I know. I'm kidding. Gender roles. Oh, yeah.
All right. So my one question is, what is Mike Borgonzi's philosophy on building a roster first to support a young quarterback or just getting the right quarterback?
Sure. This is a good question. I like this.
Because I had this back when Zach and I were on radio and the Titans had the 2nd overall pick in the 2015 draft. My thought was, man, I don't know if they are ready for Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston, whichever one Tampa doesn't take. And in that draft, and it's on record somewhere on the internet, I said I would go Leonard Williams, D-line out of USC. That was going to be my pick instead of Marcus Mariota at 2. And, they ended up making it work, I think, for Mariota until Mariota could no longer work for them. But I also think part of the reason why Mariota couldn't work for them is because he kind of got mentally broken a little bit on top of physically broken because their offensive line was very shaky. So is this team ready to draft somebody number 1 overall and not break them because of what they don't have around them? Or does this team need to do what the Chiefs did? They had Alex Smith. They were a playoff team, and they saw, hey, this Mahomes kid out of Texas Tech and Lubbock is really special. Let's trade a lot to move up from 27 to 10 to go get him. Mm-hmm. He's not going to play right away. People are going to think we're crazy, but this is the right move. So that's what's your philosophy on drafting the quarterback and just getting the quarterback right versus being ready for the quarterback with the rest of the roster?
Austin, that's a great question. We're going to ask it. I'll ask it if somebody else doesn't ask it. I have a lot of thoughts on it that we don't have time for today. So hopefully we get a question answered there, and we can talk all about our thoughts on it tomorrow on the show.
Yep, absolutely. Now, let's see. Curtis says, Tanny, I've been reading a lot of Curtis comments today. Props to Curtis. Tanny was the Titans Alex Smith. Levis was just ass.
Curtis gets an assistant producer credit on today's show. Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you for your collaboration. All right, so let's get to the other thing. Easton, you sat down and
we buried the lead. Yeah.
You sat down and talked with head coach Brian Callahan for nearly 90 minutes on recorded video on Monday morning. Yeah. We have a portion of that conversation that we will play here in a second, and we'll talk more about the rest of that conversation after we play this clip, but a very interesting clip with Easton and Titans head coach Brian Callahan. But I do want to tell everybody about our great friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. When injuries happen in life, you have to know where you can turn, who you can trust. And it is the doctors, the support staff, the physical therapists at the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin, right off of I-65 and Highway 96, next door to Williamson Medical Center. They are a growing big-time player when it comes to the region and how you can best find the help for whatever that injury is, whether it's a sports injury, a life injury, an old injury, because those creep up later in life. Boneandjointtn.org is where to go when you need them. And also, no trivia today because we got to run, got to hustle. But shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon. Say hey to Payne Bone for us while you're there at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Easton, I will let you preview the Brian Callahan conversation, and then I will hit the button to play the teaser clip that we've got for everybody.
Yeah. So on Monday, I sat down with Brian. Monday morning, we had a very long conversation. My dad called me last night. He said, how'd it go? I said, it was great. It was almost 90 minutes. And he said, why did you go that long? And I said, Dad, listen, it's like this interview. It's like a Scorsese movie where it's like, it's not fluff. It's not too long. And you're like, well, they could have cut some of that out. It's all good and necessary. It's just gratuitously long. And there's so much good stuff in there. And I cannot wait for everybody to get to listen to it on Friday. If people are wondering, so many people have asked, when's it coming out? We are running it in place of our morning show here, same place, same time, 8 a.m. Friday morning. Brian and I's full conversation will come out, and we talk. I have transcript and chaptered the thing so that on YouTube people can actually like navigate it, because again, it is so long. We covered 31 different topics, and
Crazy.
If you can think about something you'd want to ask Brian Callahan, I asked it. I've been constructing this interview for a couple of months now. It was the most fun, cool thing that I've done in this job so far, so I can't wait for people to get to listen to it. But to preview it a little bit and to get ahead of today's press conferences, we ran an article yesterday announcing the interview and with a 4-minute clip attached to it from the interview that we're going to play for you here. This clip is about Brian Callahan's perspective on the Titans' pretty unique power structure, the way that it's set up. We've had a lot of questions about why, what's the point. I asked him here in this video, what's the point? And then follow up, why don't other teams do this? And he gave a really good answer. So Austin, let's hear it. Well, another thing that I think people struggle to understand right now is the utility of this power structure itself, right? Because, and I do think there's probably more clarity now, the way that it is a single ladder down from Amy to Chad to Mike to you. What's your opinion on kind of a unique power structure you guys have in I guess bifurcating the GM responsibilities for what Chad is doing? What's the point?
Well, I think this isn't, I mean, I guess it is a bit unique around the league, but there's been places that have done things like this before. When I was in Denver, John Elway was the president of football ops, and, though we had GM people, we had Brian Zanders at one point there. We had Matt Russell that I think had the GM title. I can't quite recall the titles, but it was a very similar setup. So it's not something that I haven't seen before. There's just so much that goes into these GM jobs nowadays. And it's really challenging for one person to manage all of it and build the roster. And I mean, there's just so much that goes into it that having really two talented, diverse ways of thinking, I think really is an advantage to an organization, the way that we're set up. I mean, Chad's experiences with Mike's experiences and mine, we've all seen championship teams. We've all been to Super Bowls. We've all won one. And I think all of that melds into a pretty good melting pot of ideas and experiences that I think can help us really improve our football team. So, structure-wise, it doesn't really feel much different to me in terms of the day-to-day, but everything we do, we still work together on. Very rarely at any point is anybody, walking up to the draft board and getting their hands slapped down because, no, I'm in charge of this and I'm in charge of that. That doesn't happen. We all work together trying to do the best we can for the organization, and our goal is to build a winning team as quickly as we possibly can.
You have any idea why other teams don't, the more traditional GM setups? Do you feel like you're just ahead of the curve on that? Is it different teams are better off situated differently?
That's hard to say. I think every organization operates from a little bit different, what they see, the organization needs. Sometimes they have other people that do those things and you don't really know it either. There's sometimes their president operates and runs some of the outside peripheral things that the GM doesn't. So I think it varies from organization to organization. I just know that the way that we're set up, I think, is probably you're going to start to see a little bit more of it as these organizations continue to get bigger. The staffs have gotten bigger on both sides, both in personnel and in coaching. And you're seeing also the support staffs getting bigger. You have more security people, you have more operations people, your equipment staff, your training staff, your grounds crew. These are all things that get run in the operation of a day-to-day basis. And there's a lot that goes on. And so you want your GM to focus on building the best roster possible and managing the scouting staff, both the pro and the college, and making sure that we're on the same space and direction on that side. And then there's all the other things that happen on a day-to-day basis that people don't even see and understand. And it's just, these organizations are gigantic. There's a lot of things that go into it. Now the money of the NFL just continues to go up. And these are major, massive jobs that require a lot of attention and a lot of things that people don't see on a day-to-day basis. They just see titles and don't quite understand it. But the operation of the business is intricate and is detailed. And there's a lot of people that are relying on people like Chad and Mike and myself to make decisions and run the day-to-day operation. And so I think it's a pretty cool structure, to be honest. I think it helps everybody do their job to the best of their ability. And so you don't get lost in the weeds, when your GM's not worrying about what the grass looks like on the field. He's more worried about what players are going to draft in the 6th round. I think those things help. It just helps keep everything streamlined and focused. And this is my opinion, but that's just how I've seen it. And I think it's beneficial for us.
So that's Brian Callahan, and about 4 minutes of an hour and 24 minutes that he sat down with Easton on Monday. We will have that in place of our morning show Friday morning, which I think
a couple of more nuggets like this embedded in articles on Thursday. Some highlights in there that I want to tease here in a second. Not to cut you off, Austin, but go ahead.
No.
I like your hat, by the way. I hope Callahan showed. How fun it would be if he showed up to the press conference today, because he'll be there with his wife.
Will he
hanging
be
out.
Shaved?
No shot. Well, maybe.
I think he will.
It's a nice event. He probably will, actually. Yeah.
I think Brian Callahan will not have that like peak off-season beard for a press conference for his new boss. I feel very good about that.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah.
But anyway, no, I mean, seriously, somebody said Easton's too nice. You asked like, oh, are the Titans ahead of the curve when it comes to this new front office structure? No, I
They seem to think that they are. I mean,
they do. And honestly, and I've been vocal about this. I agree with it. Like I've said this the last couple of days, ever since they hired Mike Borgonzi, and we don't know whether, the whole Chad Brinker's got final say or Borgonzi's going to have it. Albert Breer is now wrong from what he talked about on SI earlier in the week. Look, Jim Wyatt went on 3HL yesterday and kind of walked back Burke Nihill's comments a little bit, even though Burke Nihill was correct, because Chad Brinker confirmed that this morning on
this
Ramon
team and their
Kalen
PR messaging. Peak stuff, man.
It's definitely strange. So as it's too hot in my house with the heat cranking because it's so cold outside. So I don't know what the temperature was in Brian Callahan's office, but overall, I think people will really enjoy what you have coming up on Friday. So Friday morning, in place of the morning show, that is where you will be able to find the entire Brian Callahan interview.
Can I tease a couple of topics? Just
yes, you can, because you weren't fluffing. Like, this was not fluff. This was not an hour and 24 minutes of fluff.
No, I went into this. The primary objective was no fluff. I asked one marginally fluffy question at the beginning, and then the next hour and 22 minutes is just talking ball. And that clip is interesting and insightful. And I think it was why we ran it early, because there's some news in there. There are like 4 or 5 other things that we talk about that no one has heard before. Some insight that A to Z is going to have first, which is super cool. The first look into Brian Callahan's headspace about the Titans quarterback position heading into 2025. He does not dance around those questions. I press him on it a couple of different times, and we talk about what he's looking for, some clues about the traits he's looking for. We talk about Peyton McCollum in detail, a guy that's going to be coaching Shadir Sanders at the East-West Shrine Bowl over the weekend. And so we'll be writing about that on Thursday. You'll want to listen to what Brian has to say about Peyton, who he calls the most unsung hero of the Titans coaching staff. This is not just some random guy they're sending to coach Shadir Sanders. He, according to Brian, he is a very, very integral part of their operation. So that's an interesting topic. We talk about his relationship with Amy Adams-Strunk. He goes into more detail about that than he ever has before. We talk about his relationship with Chad Brinker, something that he has not touched on in this much detail before. I ask him point blank about some questions we all had all year long. He explains the Nick Westbrook-Ikine and Traylon Burks thing and gives a nugget on that no one has ever heard before. Gives just, frankly, the God-honest truth about it that no one has ever heard him say before. I asked him about the special team situation and what went wrong there, and we detail all of that.
Now, this was pre-Bones Fossil.
And by pre, we mean literally right before. I gave him a hard time afterwards. I said, why did you not mention this? He did not know when it was going to come out. We talk about Will Levis and the fit stylistically, and we talk about his biggest regrets from this year. I ask him, he gives us an answer point blank on whether or not he's going to give up play calling. That's going to be news when that comes out. And I'm not even, there's like, again, 31 things I'm not even reading to you right here. So I can't wait for you guys to listen to it. People are asking, when's it coming out? Friday morning, right here, A to Z Sports YouTube channel, 8 a.m. in place of the morning show, the full thing with some more teaser things to come today and tomorrow. So you'll get to see some more little snippets, but the whole uncut hour and 24, whatever minutes it is on Friday morning.
Yeah, Friday morning, 8 o'clock on YouTube. We'll also run on Facebook in place of the morning show as well. Easton, you got to go. You got to get to this Chad Brinker conversation.
See you guys.
We will catch you guys later on. Make sure you do us a solid and you hit that like button for us. Like the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel, because you're going to want to have your notifications on for the Brian Callahan interview Friday morning. So make sure you subscribe and also hit that like button, 5-star Google reviews, and we'll catch you guys throughout the day. So much content will be coming today because of the press conferences at St. Thomas Sports Park. More teasers for the Brian Callahan interview will come out over the next couple of days, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning on a Thursday. Buck Rising. We'll recap it all tonight on Primetime. We'll catch you guys later. Appreciate it.